So I guess it's finally to talk about The Last Airbender because I already did The Legend of Korra, and now it's time to talk about The Last Airbender. My favorite cartoon ever, and the cartoon that got me into anime. Well, it was mostly Dragon Ball Z, but this one actually got me into anime too. It's by far one of the best shows I've ever seen in my entire life, and I still watch it once in a while because, it's nostalgic, and I really like the show. It just feels so wholesome in a way. But although it's not wholesome, there's a lot of terrible things happening in the show, but in a way they do it in such a wholesome way because it's a kid show. But it's not only for kids. I mean, I'm pretty sure adults appreciate the show more than kids do. And yes, I'm sorry I'm not showing footage. You know how YouTube is, copyright and all that stuff. But anyway, this is one of my favorite cartoons ever, and it's a masterpiece for how amazing the storytelling is. And I refuse to watch the live action movie, and I refuse to watch the show. And although I did try to watch it, it's really boring. It doesn't really capture anything great about the show, like the original show, not this live action crappy show that they can't even act right. So anyway, the original show, the better show, it's really good. Like everything about the show is just a masterpiece. The only problem with it is that Aang is the only person that's wearing orange, and nobody really notices that. Like, nobody notices that he's from the air temples. Did people forget? Look, they probably forgot how, people from the air nation dress, so I guess that's a pass, but still. And then there's the thing that, the lion turtle at the end of the show, they just, it randomly just appears out of nowhere. It was out of nowhere, but it's still a good show. I really do like the story, though. I like the opening of the show. Just Katara just narrating everything about what happened in the last 100 years, the war, the genocide of the Air Nation, everything about that opening is just it's perfect. It's a masterpiece. It's everything. It just tells you everything simple in just a few amount of seconds. If it was another show, then it'd probably take forever to explain this and that. And no, this show, it explains everything in a few amount of seconds, and that's why I praise the rating in The Last Airbender more than I do with The Legend of Korra. And not only was it, done perfectly, but it's iconic. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attack is basically just a meme now, but, it's an iconic line. And there's also that one line, when we needed him most, he vanished. That's iconic too. Although the show could be goofy at times, I really do enjoy it for how wholesome it is, especially for Aang being a character that he doesn't really take itself seriously at the beginning of the show, but, after a few seasons later, he actually grows as a character. And I do really like how most of these characters are written. I really like Katara, Sokka, Aang, Toph, Zuko mostly, because Zuko is by far one of the best written characters in animation history. He's on the level of Vegeta, but even better written than Vegeta. Yes, I admit that he's better written than Vegeta. Zuko's arc from just becoming some hot-headed, selfish prince, and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but he's only trying to capture the Avatar because he's trying to get his father's affection, which isn't really going to change much because his dad is a piece of shit. And then there's also Azula, a character that's probably been tortured by her father too, for being the golden child, but she has to do is just impress him in order to get his affection, which is actually very sad. Especially at that age, becoming a protege that young and then just trying to get your father's affection because it's probably the only thing that will impress him is actually very depressing for a little kid. Yeah, so Azula, she also had it bad, but it's not the way you actually think. So she was brainwashed to the core. And then there's Zuko, like I said. Zuko, he treats his uncle like shit because Iroh is a great character. I'm not gonna lie, all the wisdom that just comes out of his mouth is just I have to take it to heart too, because sometimes he's right about some certain things, and as a hot-headed person, I take that to consideration. And the reason why is because he's a very peaceful man. He talks down to you very calming and peacefully, and Zuko doesn't understand it because he's a teenager. Not only is he a teenager, but he's a very hot-headed teenager. He's somebody who lost a lot in his life. His mom was just taken away. I never found out what happened to his mom, but I'm sure it's in a comic somewhere. His face was burned. He was, exiled. How do you not feel bad for the kid? You just feel bad for him, so it's understandable why he acts like that. And then Look, compare Zuko to Mako. Zuko had it way worse, and Mako's just basically a wannabe Zuko. So that's why the writing in The Legend of Korra is something I don't really enjoy much, because the characters aren't written perfectly like Zuko. The characters in The Last Airbender have suffered a lot to understand why they're perfectly written, and then The Legend of Korra, they're not really perfectly written at all. They're just basically there because they're there. For example, there's Aang and how he has to become the Avatar, and he has to make up for all the 100 years that he was missing. He's seen the skeleton of his master just basically there when he was in the air temple at the beginning of the show. I think it was like in the 3rd episode where he goes to the air temple. He sees the skeleton of his master, and he goes all berserk. And it's very sad. It's a very touching moment. That's when I knew that the show was going to be great. It's moments like that that makes me appreciate the show, because you see something horrific, and there's no goofy moment. There's just like, it takes itself seriously. That's why I like the show a lot. It doesn't have any like funny moments. It takes itself seriously. The characters are perfectly written. The music it's okay. I thought the music in the show was alright, but no, it's mostly the writing and the characters and the world building too. I'll get to talk about the world building in a second, but I really want to talk about these characters. These characters are just like, they're really good. Even Katara, even though she's more of a mother figure, well, she's just not a mother figure, but she's also a mentor to Aang. A mentor, sort of like a master, waterbending master that she has to learn herself. She goes to the Water Nation. She has to teach Aang after, because, Aang couldn't really learn waterbending. So she teaches him. And it's so, like, the way she teaches him is just like, this is why I cannot ship Aang and Katara, because she's more of a mentor to him, and she's more of a mother figure to the kid than basically some love interest. I mean, I cannot ship it. No, I do not ship Zuko and Katara either. I don't really see anything of that ever happening. No. They're also bad. I don't like those two either. So yeah, anyway, Katara is actually a good written character. I used to hate her when I was a kid. I mean, she was just bitchy and annoying and uninteresting. And as the older I got, I'm like, this is a really good written character. Why did I hate her when I was a kid? And basically because she was mature for her age, because she had to take responsibility after her mother passed. And you know what's the saddest thing about the show is that most of all these characters, they have to lose somebody. Except for Toph. Toph is the only character in this whole show that doesn't really have anything much to deal with, and the same thing goes to Suki. Those two are the only characters that they don't really have to deal with much. But with these other 3 main characters in the earlier seasons, Sokka, Katara, and Aang, yeah, I see them more like as family, to be honest. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I cannot ship Katara and Aang. Even Sokka lost somebody. He lost Yue. And although their love story was forced and fast, I mean, so did Suki and Sokka. It was basically just, like, it was too quick. That's why the romance in the show is, like, trash, because it's more focused on the story than it is on the romance. Even side characters, like Ty Lee and Mei, were also done perfectly. I mean, they're not really important to the plot, but to be honest, they are just, like, they're really good characters. They're characters that I just wanted them to be more on the screen, but they were more focusing on Aang and his gang. The best thing about this show is the introduction to the Air Nation, Fire Nation, the elements, and how the Avatar works. It's done so simple, perfectly, that people could understand. In order for the Avatar to learn the certain elements, they have to go in order. And it makes sense. It does make sense because, air, then water, then earth, then fire. So it makes sense. And it could also be summed up also with the Avatar being the next in the cycle. Like first it was Kyoshi, then Roku, then Aang. So the seasons actually go in order. Oh, speaking of Avatar Roku, his story was amazing. It was only told in a short amount of time, but it was just perfectly done. It's a very sad story. I mean, yeah, he was being a little bit selfish because he didn't want to kill his best friend. And the best friend was, the Fire Lord. And it's just done so sad because he can't kill his friend. He can't have the benefit of just like hurting his friend because of just like the bonding of everything. But because of his selfishness, the Air Nation was gone. Look, most of these avatars are selfish, but the most selfish avatar is Korra. And I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to say that she's the most selfish one. And people will say that Aang is selfish, but he actually he's a little bit selfish, but still, if he stayed during the genocide of the Air Nations, there wouldn't really be an Avatar. So, come on, like, you guys gotta think. And yeah, he was a little bit selfish at the end of the series too, where he just left and he didn't really say anything. That was a little bit selfish, but you have to think that his benefits of just being raised by not killing people has been just pushed into his mind and been told that killing somebody isn't worth it because there's other ways to do it. So yeah, Aang is a little bit selfish, but he's not selfish to like the level of Korra. And yes, I'm sorry I'm basically comparing the two, but I was having a debate with somebody and people saying that Aang is also selfish, and yes he is, but he's not Korra level selfish. And the Avatar Aang is basically everybody's favorite Avatar. To me, he is my favorite Avatar because, he's a fun kid. He's not really that selfish like Korra. His character development is way better than Korra's, like by far the best character development other than Zuko, but I still think Zuko has the best character development in the series. It's just everything about the show is just so fucking great. Like, it's such a perfect show, and even to this day, I still watch it because that's how great of a show it is. I tried watching the movie before, but like I couldn't stomach it. It's like it's so bad, it's so boring. And also the show too, the Netflix show, it's not written perfectly either. So the Netflix show has a bunch of issues, and I understand why the creators left. And to be honest, the whole reason why this show is actually good, the original show, is because they had this other writer. I think his name was Aaron or something. Yeah, he's the one that was doing the writing for the entire show. And I guess they were just planning the entire show. He was doing most of the writing, and that's why the writing in the original show is actually better. So Brian and Michael were not the ones doing the writing for the show. They did the writing for The Legend of Korra. They did some of the writing, but most of the writing was from Aaron. And I'm surprised they never got the guy ever again to write The Legend of Korra. Imagine him doing the writing for that show. It would have been better than what we actually got for, the finale of The Legend of Korra. That show it's really bad. It's a mid show. I mean, there's some good aspects, but that show is not that great. It's not great as people say it is. I mean, I guess it's the animation that's also good, but honestly, The Legend of Korra is not a great show. But The Last Airbender, that's a perfect show. And no, I'm not done saying what I gotta say about this show because I haven't even talked about Toph. Toph is a good character. Of all the girls in the show, she is my favorite one because she's a cool character. She's badass. She's one of my favorite characters in this entire show. And there's also Iroh. Iroh is a good character. Most of these characters are good. All these characters are amazing. I mean, fuck, man. Even the cabbage guy is a good character. The secondary characters are good. The NPCs are also good. It's a well-written show with great written characters, an amazing story, soundtrack that I don't know. I don't really care about the music much in the show. I never really liked it much, but yes, the story and the characters are basically like the best thing about this show. And I should rewatch it again. It's been like 2 years since I watched it, but that's only because I got really nothing else to watch, but I need to watch this show. I like that the show doesn't really have filler. If this show had filler, then it was just sidetracked way down. I like that there's no filler. I mean, there's only one filler episode, and it's basically where all these characters are just basically doing anything. I forgot what's it called. The Tales of Ba Sing Se, I think. That's a filler episode. I think that's the only filler episode. Yes, that's the only filler episode in the series, and it's actually done great too because you get to see what all these characters are doing, and that's the only filler episode we need in the series. And to be honest, I can't really stand filler episodes. It's like, it starts to go downhill for me and it just gets boring. I mean, look at Steven Universe. That show has like 90% filler or like 70% filler. And then I guess that's the reason why I don't really like the show, and the writing sucks too. But no, the show is perfectly done with just one filler episode, and that's all we need. I don't know if the episode where Zuko goes to the beach with his sister and his girlfriend, I don't remember if that's a filler episode, but it shows more of the lore to the story, so I don't really consider that, a filler episode. It's more just talking about the lore and why Zuko is like that, and they're having like this bonding session with these teenagers that are just going through stuff. It's a good little episode. I like that one, but it's not really considered filler to me because if it shows lore in the story, then no, it's not filler. Okay, I gotta talk about Iroh, because if I don't talk about Iroh, then I'm gonna be missing something in this video. Iroh is by far one of the best written characters I've ever seen in any show. His way of just giving advice to characters, and it just feels like actual advice that people could take to consideration, to heart, feels something that I will probably just take to consideration too, because he's such a wisdom character. And every time he starts singing to his dead son, it's just like it made me feel something very emotional for the character. It's just very sad. It's a very sad scene because he's trying to be a father figure to Zuko. Zuko doesn't, like in the early episodes, he doesn't really want to take it seriously because he just wants to grab and take it to the Fire Nation and get the affection of his dad. And Iroh's just trying to give him the affection that he always wanted for his son because his son is dead. And it's sad. It's a sad series, and that's what makes the show even perfect, because of moments like that. And that's not the only scene that actually got me emotional. The scene where Iroh and Zuko, they just come together and Zuko apologizes to his uncle, that shit just had me in tears. It's a very sad scene and a very powerful scene too. I don't think there's any other scene in that show that could actually get me emotional. That is the only scene that actually got me. So the fighting in the show, the fighting is actually based on real martial arts moves. That's interesting, I like that. Yeah, the fighting in the show is actually really good, especially, you know, the fight with Ozai. That's actually the best one in the series, and I don't care what anybody says, that's like my favorite one. That one and Zuko versus Azula is by far one of the best things I've ever seen. But you know what? The thing is that with the show, and it's very dark, it's a very dark show, you have to realize that you can't really tell that it's a dark show because of all the goofiness that they're trying to hide behind all the dark serious stuff. And this show does have a bunch of dark serious moments, like the genocide, Roku and Sozin. There's also Katara's mother passing and her getting killed so she could save her child. Very, very dark shit into the show, but you can't really, I mean, you could tell. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, these writers are trying to hide behind all this silliness that they're writing into the show because it's a little bit too dark for a kid's show. And honestly, it is pretty fucked up. It's a very fucked up show if you think about it. And I do praise the writing a lot in the show. I praise the writing in the show for how dark it is. And The Legend of Korra, no, it's not going to have that. I mean, it does have some dark moments, but no, this show actually does a better job with taking stuff way more serious than with The Legend of Korra. It's a very fucked up show. The very, very sad show that I didn't really understand when I was a kid. But, you know, as the older I got, I'm like, wow, this is probably one of the most saddest shows I've actually ever seen. You know, like, because when you're a kid watching this, you don't really understand why this is happening. You're just basically watching because it looks cool. But as the older you get, you understand the story even more for how just sad it is. And it's hard to find shows like these. It's really hard to find a show where it does take itself seriously. There's no jokes in between the serious moments. It's a really good show. And it's actually very funny because this is a kid's show and it takes itself very seriously. And you know, there's some adult shows that are just meant for adults and it's just for humor. But this show, this is meant for everybody. But I think mostly adults will actually enjoy the show way more than kids do, because adults will understand the situations of what these characters are going through. Kids, no, not really. They really won't understand. I can never find another show like The Last Airbender. It is very difficult to find shows like these. Shows that just, like, it has some good written humor, although Sokka sometimes makes some really cringy humor. It's still a little bit of a soft tone humor that I could actually enjoy. The story is really good. It's very dark. I do like that. The characters are great. There's some really good characters in the show. Like, I cannot say anything bad about these characters. They're actually really good. Even the villains of the show are actually great. So to be honest, I can't really find anything negative to say about the show because there really isn't anything negative to say about the show. No, like, I'm serious. There really isn't anything negative to say because the pacing is also perfect. I just hope Seven Havens has the same type of writing because it's also an adventure story. And Legend of Korra doesn't have an adventure story. It just skips ahead to Korra already learning the element. You know what? I guess that was the problem with the show. It's just like it already skips ahead to Korra already learning the elements. And that kind of sucks. Like, come on. I want to see her growth from the very beginning. I really hope Seven Havens actually does that. I need to see that show done perfectly because The Legend of Korra, that let me down badly. So what is there more to say about this masterpiece? It's a really good show, a timeless show, probably one of the best things I've ever seen in my entire life. And sadly, you'll never find something else like this because shows like these are really hard to come by. So yeah, that's all I got.